The story begins with Ho Gu-ui, a 17-year-old girl who narrates her first love experience with Ki Jung-woo. On their 100-day anniversary, she surprises her boyfriend with a pair of shoes, playfully asking if he would run away in them. On the final day of school, she gathers her courage to ask Jung-woo if he wants to go to the same college, but he replies that he doesn't feel like it. Despite this, Gu-ui wants to take a selfie with her boyfriend, but he invites all his friends, making her feel uneasy about their relationship. Later that evening, she joins her family for dinner. As they talk, we learn they own a restaurant, which is getting a lot of orders these days. Since they have very few staff, Gu-ui often delivers food in her free time. So, right after dinner, she heads out to deliver a chicken order. She is headed to a dorm where a famous boy band named Astro is living. Unfortunately for Gu-ui, she is immediately surrounded by the overly excited fans of the band, so she delivers the food and escapes the scene. The following morning, she gets ready and steps onto her school bus. But when she checks her purse, she finds out that she doesn't have enough cash. Worried, she asks a classmate to lend her his card, hoping he would understand her situation. At first, the guy teases her and makes her even more embarrassed, but after a while, he pays for her bus fee. In the next scene, Gu-ui arrives at her high school wearing her old middle school uniform, feeling a bit out of place. Following the advice from a senior, she heads to the auditorium to borrow the high school uniform. As she enters her classroom, she is surprised to see some of her old friends there. Gu-ui finds herself sitting in front of Jung Deoki, her new classmate, who happens to be a huge fan of Astro. After a while, surprisingly, the same guy who helped her on the bus, Shin Ji-hoon, and his friend Lee Kong-min also enter the classroom. The teacher gives a lengthy speech regarding conduct and behavior, warning the students against heinous acts like bullying. It's evident that the school is notorious for such a problem. Meanwhile, Deoki tells Gu-ui about the school's elite club, HIVA, which is composed of seniors who belong to wealthy and well-known families. In the evening, Cha Eun-woo, leader of the group Astro, who is also a close friend of Gu-ui's older brother, visits their restaurant. Since he hasn't been there in months, he is surprised to learn that Gu-ui is dating. As he asks about her boyfriend, she is reminded of an embarrassing incident where Eun-woo had once entered the bathroom to use the clogged toilet she left behind. Gu-ui narrates that this incident devastated her because she had a major crush on Eun-woo. The next day, Gu-ui appears to be worried as her boyfriend Jung-woo has been very distant to her as of late. She later confronts him, asking why he isn't replying to her texts. But before he can reply, an unknown girl appears and grabs his hand. To everyone's surprise, Jung-woo acts like Gu-ui is a stalker and shoves her aside. The poor thing falls into the garbage near the street and is left heartbroken. As she starts to feel sick, Deoki takes her home and in a rush, leaves her outside. Eun-woo, who also happens to be there, panics and takes her inside the house. She cries in pain in front of her brother and Eun-woo, but the two are helpless in this situation. In the morning, as Gu-ui wakes up feeling embarrassed about her outburst the previous evening, she sees a message pop up on her phone asking to join a certain revenge note. Several days pass, but Gu-ui is still devastated by her breakup with Jung-woo. She finds the message pop up on her phone again, and this time, she proceeds to enter Jung-woo's name in it. Simultaneously, Jung-woo receives a message on his phone mentioning that he has been selected as a revenge target, but he chooses to ignore it. Soon after, weird incidents start happening to Jung-woo. First, his shoes go missing while he's eating at a restaurant, and later, someone delivers a strange meal to his cram school. Jung-woo eats it without hesitation, but soon, he starts feeling uncomfortable. He tries rushing to the toilet, but ends up soiling his pants. The news quickly spreads like wildfire, and someone even uploads a video of the embarrassing incident. When Gu-ui learns of this, she wonders who's behind it. In the next scene, Gu-ui's father courageously intervenes to stop a group of high school thugs from stealing someone's bag. But unfortunately, he ends up getting beaten up by them. Some adults nearby notice the incident and intervene, separating the high school thugs from the poor man. Shortly after, Gu-ui reaches the scene and takes her father home. The next day, Gu-ui's classmate Ga-eun asks her to get food for the group. Smartly, our heroine buys the food, but puts it under Ga-eun's name. Shortly after, the bullies who had beaten up her father try to bully her, telling her to bring them food from the market. However, she doesn't have enough money to pay for it. Fortunately, one of her seniors, who is also the president of Hive, helps her pay for the food. The same day, a group of a-holes try to embarrass Gu-ui by making fun of her in front of the gym and recording videos. To make matters worse, the restaurant receives negative reviews on social media, causing a huge decline in orders. Feeling overwhelmed by the bullying, Gu-ui's emotions boil over and she lashes out at her father, blaming him for engaging with the bullies the previous day. At the same time, Eun-woo stops by their place. He asks her about what happened, and in response, she opens up about everything. Eun-woo then gives her a comforting hug and reassures her that everything will be all right. At the same time, a stranger can be seen secretly taking pictures of the two. The next morning, officials from the Food Safety Department visit Gu-ui's family restaurant to investigate rumors about their chicken causing food poisoning. They put up a poster mentioning that the family's restaurant will be closed due to an inspection. This obviously worries the family, as it's their only source of income. In the following scene, GuIIies family plans on visiting one of the customers who is apparently suffering from food poisoning in the hospital. However, the angry mother yells at them and hits GuIIi's father. This causes a commotion and the family is forced to leave. In the evening, GuIIi finds out that the customer had been pretending to be sick and is actually one of the bullies. The following day, as GuIIi is at the supermarket, she observes the bullies buying chocolates. This triggers an unpleasant memory of them assaulting her father. Suddenly, she receives a message on her phone mentioning revenge note. She rushes towards her injured father's car and gives him a bottle of water. Feeling deeply upset about her family's problems, GuIIi decides to confront the group of bullies known as zombies. It turns out she received a cryptic message about them while at the supermarket. However, little does GuIIi know that her brave action to confront the bullies will set off a series of strange and unpleasant events for the bully. Later, while playing snooker, the zombies receive a message informing them that they are revenge targets. Suddenly, as they play, the ball accidentally hits one of the bullies in the face. After finishing their game, the group leaves the room and heads outside to sit on their bikes. Surprisingly, their helmets are filled with broken eggs, and a video of them beating up GuIIi's father is spread across the internet. The next morning, the gang enters the class with their faces all beaten and bruised. The frustrated group tries to threaten GuIIi, but Ji-hoon and Kong-min intervene, and a fight goes down between them. Eventually, the police arrive on the scene and take the zombies away. Later that night, GuIIi can't stop thinking about Ji-hoon as she has developed feelings for him. He is always there for her in class, whether it be defending her from the bullies or to help GuIIi get away from the perverted PT teacher, Yamit. One day they spot him creeping on their classmate, Yuri. Feeling bad for her friend, GuIIi impulsively enters Yamit's name for revenge. The following day during PT class, Yamit tries to play an educational video, but instead, an adult movie comes up on the screen. This causes chaos in the class as Yamit struggles to pause it. Later that day, GuIIi spots her classmate Yuri being taken away in a car. To her utter disbelief, the man is Mr. Kim, the most likable teacher in the school. For some reason, he forces Yuri into the car and drives away. Witnessing this, GuIIi believes that she made a mistake by entering Yamit on the revenge note. She tries to remove it, but the device shows a transmission error, leaving her worried. Later, the class's mean girls start talking rubbish about Yuri, claiming they saw her sitting in Teacher Kim's car. Upon hearing the gossip, GuIIi confronts the girls and asks them to apologize for spreading false rumors about Yuri. She then mentions that Teacher Kim is a two-faced person who is completely different from the image they have of him. Hearing this, GuIIi gets enraged and pulls GuIIi's hair, resulting in a brawl. The fight gets so intense that a teacher has to separate the two. As a punishment, the teacher makes them kneel outside the class with their hands raised. Later, while having lunch, Jioki advises GuIIi against reporting Teacher Kim as it would get Yuri into trouble. They both feel that if they disclose information about Mr. Kim to anyone, no one will believe them. As a result, they devise a plan to help Yuri instead. Acting on the plan, GuIIi dresses up like Yuri to confront the teacher. Inside the special activities room, she meets up with him and pretends to be Yuri. However, when he invites her closer, GuIIi reveals her true identity. She also shows him the filthy chat messages he had sent earlier, inviting her to meet in the special activities room. Angry about being caught, Kim warns GuIIi of the consequences if she pulls a prank like this again. He then snatches her phone, deletes the messages, and warns her not to tell anyone about the incident. However, unbeknownst to him, Jioki recorded everything on her phone and later publishes it on the internet. The next day at school, the video goes viral, and Mr. Kim is subjected to intense backlash from all the students. It turns out some other students have been victimized by him too. As a result, Mr. Kim is arrested and put behind bars. Yuri is thrilled by the arrest, and she wholeheartedly thanks GuIIi for standing by her side. As the days pass, GuIIi's family restaurant slowly and steadily regains their lost customers. This is partly due to Eunwoo's popularity, and pictures of him hugging GuIIi have been leaked all over the internet. Later that night, Eunwoo calls and checks up on GuIIi. He reminisces about the good times they had when they were kids. In the meantime, Jioki is upset over not being able to secure tickets to Astro's concert. She visits GuIIi's place to ask for help, but accidentally sees her brother coming out of the shower. Confused and unsure what to do, he hands over the family's picture album to break the awkwardness. As Jioki goes through some of those photos, she is left in complete shock. Shortly after, GuIIi finds out that her friend has come by, so she excitedly searches for her. However, Jioki has already left without telling anyone. For some reason, she avoids GuIIi at school and joins her other peers to watch a video of a woman accusing Eunwoo of molestation. When Ga-eun says something malicious about Eunwoo, GuIIi cannot help but yell at the class, telling them not to judge him. Later, she becomes worried and tries to call Eunwoo, but his phone appears to be switched off. GuIIi wants to share her feelings with Jioki, but she doesn't reply to her messages. Meanwhile, the producer informs the members of Astro that their performance performances have been cancelled. Upset, the members demand an explanation from Eun-woo regarding the cancellations, but he is too overwhelmed to say anything. In the meantime, Ji-hoki leaves school with another friend, ignoring BuIIies. As a result, our poor heroine is forced to wait for the rain to stop because she doesn't have an umbrella. But fortunately, Ji-hoon shows up and offers her one. Because of this kind gesture, Ji-wee bursts into tears. Shortly after, she reaches home and finally discovers the reason why Ji-hoki is upset. She actually saw the pictures of BuIIies' family with Eun-woo. Feeling guilty that she didn't inform her friend about this secret, BuIIies sends Ji-hoki some signed autographs of the pop star, along with an apology note. After this, she beats her brother for disclosing their secret. In the next scene, the two girls reconcile, and Ji-hoki immediately decides to uncover the truth about the Eun-woo scandal. After a bit of searching, she finds the username that was being used to post the malicious content about him. Enraged, BuIIies doesn't think twice and enters the username in her revenge note. Later, in order to find more evidence against the accuser, Ji-hoki and another Astro fan ask the manager of an internet cafe to help them out with security footage. For some reason, Ji-hoki finds the manager odd, yet familiar looking. Later that night, when she is on her way to BuIIies' restaurant, a stranger suddenly kidnaps her. Ji-hoon and Kangmin happen to be there and see the stranger driving Ji-hoki away in his car. She appears to be unconscious. The two hurriedly note the car's number and chase it. After a lot of effort, they eventually find it in the morning and call the police. Ji-hoki wakes up and realizes that her kidnapper is the same manager from the internet cafe. Soon the cops arrive at the scene and arrest the manager, who turns out to be a former performer. He was supposed to debut as part of Astro, but he was replaced by Eun-woo. Because of this very reason, he has held a grudge against our pop star hero. Later on, BuIIies arranges Astro concert tickets for Ji-hoki and her mother. They finally get to meet with the group and take pictures together. One evening, Ji-hoki finds BuIIies in front of her house with her suitcase. Our heroine politely asks if she can crash there for a few days. On being asked if everything's okay, BuIIies recalls the incident that led to her running away from home. It turns out that her mother has taunted her for eating too fast, while pampering her older brother to eat well. This pissed BuIIies off and she stopped eating. Later, when she asked her brother if he wanted to taste some ramen she was going to prepare, he said no, saying he was full. However, when she made it, her brother sneakily stole most of it. BuIIies whined about her noodles, but her mother scolded her again for not sharing her food with her brother. Because of all this, BuIIies feels like she's not being treated fairly by her family. She confesses to Ji-hoki that it's not so much her mother that gets on her nerves, but rather her brother. She reveals that he acts normal outside the house, but behaves like a completely different person when they are at home. Later, BuIIies realizes that it's ridiculous to run away, so she returns home. But to her dismay, her family didn't even notice her absence, making her feel sad and unwanted. The following day at school, the French teacher gives all the students a team assignment. Unfortunately, Ji-hoki cannot participate as she has to leave early to meet her relatives. Taking this opportunity, a girl named Mo Nan-wee approaches BuIIies and starts doing her makeup. She confesses that she has a crush on Ji-hoon and asks BuIIies to help her out. Nan-wee then insists that BuIIies meet a guy she thinks would be a perfect fit for her. Our heroine is skeptical about the idea, but after a lot of convincing, she agrees. Later, they reach a restaurant and BuIIies is shocked to learn that the guy is none other than her ex-boyfriend, Jung-woo. Shortly after, Ji-hoon also arrives, but upon seeing BuIIies and Jung-woo sitting together, he becomes jealous and leaves. Meanwhile, Jung-woo texts Nan-wee, and it turns out that the two of them are plotting to cause a rift between the two. At school, Nan-wee continues to flirt with Ji-hoon and creates further misunderstandings. When Ji-hoki notices this, she decides to take matters in her own hands. She pairs up with Ji-hoon and BuIIies for their French assignment and leaves them alone. The plan works, and our two protagonists end up sharing a romantic moment together outside. But suddenly her stomach lurches, so she leaves in a rush. As the days pass, the evil Nan-wee continues with her shenanigans in a continued effort to separate the two. At one point, she even drags Ji-hoki into the drama. This turns out to be the last straw for BuIIies, so she angrily adds Nan-wee's name to the revenge note. While it's not shown what happened to the evil girl, one thing's for sure: she doesn't bother our heroine ever again. The following day, a frustrated BuIIies shouts that she likes Ji-hoon in front of everyone. Suddenly it starts to rain, and Ji-hoon runs to cover her with an umbrella. Then, in a shocking turn of events, he too declares his interest in her. This surprises all the students nearby, and the two lovebirds head home together. The next day, BuIIies stumbles upon Ga-eun in the classroom after school with a stranger. They appear to be listening to some songs. Although it's none of BuIIies' business, she cannot help but wonder who the boy is. That night, the two young lovebirds text for hours, and she continuously blushes reading his romantic messages. The next morning, she overhears some boys talking about Ga-eun on the bus. Her personal photo was leaked without her consent. In class, Ji-hoki shows Ga-eun the photograph, claiming it's her. This leaves the latter shocked and upset. As Ga-eun's peers continue to share her image that has gone viral, the seniors from her school harass her, throwing dirty water and insulting her. Seeing Ga-eun be treated so harshly, BuIIies is reminded of the time they met in middle school. Ga-eun was a new student, and the two became instant friends. They would frequently visit each other's homes and enjoy great food. However, one day, BuIIies overheard Ga-eun and her mother dissing her family. Because of this, BuIIies distanced herself and eventually stopped talking. Ga-eun didn't take it well either, and just became mean to our heroine. In the present, BuIIies feels the need to help Ga-eun out by writing the name of the person who leaked her photograph in the revenge note, but she doesn't know who it is. The next day, as a basketball match is taking place at school, BuIIies notices that her senior, the vice president of Hive, is wearing the same shoes as the mysterious guy who was with Ga-eun a few days ago. Later, Ji-hyun and Kangmi overhear a person talking about Ga-eun's leaked photograph in the men's restroom. It turns out to be Hive's vice president, Young-ah-jun, who is behind all this. The boys immediately call BuIIies and inform her about it. Without wasting any time, our heroine adds the culprit's name to the revenge note. Shortly after, it's time for Ah-jun's presentation at his father's international conference. Suddenly, he receives a revenge target message, but doesn't think much of it. As soon as he begins to talk, the screen display glitches. Then it starts playing a recording of Ah-jun having an inappropriate conversation with an adult on a webcam. The media captures the incident, and the scandal goes viral on the news. Ah-jun's father is stunned by what has happened, so he immediately walks away without even trying to defend his son. On the other hand, BuIIies and her friends are elated that they have finally avenged their friend, Ga-eun. The following day in class, everyone practices singing a song for their final exams while their music professor guides them. Min-ah, one of the students, performs well in this assignment. After school, Min-ah offers to help BuIIies with the classroom duties. The two quickly bond over their shared interest in food and photography. Min-ah even shows BuIIies pictures of her boyfriend posted on her social media. Later that evening, BuIIies notices her music teacher, has come to the restaurant to take away his order. A while later, when BuIIies is delivering orders, she is shocked to see Min-ah and walking together. The next day, a student announces in class that Professor is getting married and that she saw him handing out wedding invitations. Hearing this, Min-ah is distressed and breaks down in front of everyone. She cries in front of the teacher and asks him why he's done her dirty like this. Soon a rumor spreads throughout the school that the two were dating, and many people express their concern for the poor girl. At night, while BuIIies is going through Min-ah's social media, her father recognizes Min-ah. It turns out that he once delivered food to place, and Min-ah was there with him. The following day, Min-ah shockingly exposes her affair with Professor on the school's online community. This creates a buzz in the school, and the students cannot stop talking about them. As a result, the professor is ashamed when he walks inside the class to start his lessons. It becomes even more humiliating for him when students write nasty comments about him on the board and hurl objects at him. After the class, BuIIies considers whether to write the professor's name on the revenge note, but eventually decides against it. Later that evening, Ga-eun and her friends gather at Deok's house for a group assignment. Deok's mother serves them a delicious cake and talks about an internet novel. To prepare for their assignment, the group starts going through the novel, but finds it strikingly similar to Min-ah's story. On further investigation, they are taken aback to learn that it is actually her story. The group is shocked that Min-ah would do this, so BuIIies and Deoki decide to confront her about it. Shortly after, they find Min-ah sitting in a park, crying about what happened, but the duo don't seem to be buying it. Deoki observes Min-ah and believes that she might be paranoid and believe in things that don't exist. Later, Min-ah is questioned by the school staff, and she reveals that she intentionally acquired similar items to match Professor as she admired him. Then out of nowhere, Min-ah breaks down and shocks the teachers, saying she's pregnant. The news quickly spreads like wildfire in the school. BuIIies knows that Min-ah is not telling the truth, so she decides to take matters in her own hands. Without hesitation, she adds Min-ah's name to the revenge note. Later, her medical test results come out, revealing that Min-ah isn't pregnant. In fact, she is mentally unstable, so it's suggested that she seek therapy. It's also revealed that all the pictures Min-ah had posted of the couple on her social media were fabricated. Later, when BuIIies visits her in the hospital, she finds Min-ah behaving strangely and talking to herself, confirming that she is indeed unstable. Later, BuIIies and Ji-hyun finally go on an official date. They go to a restaurant, roam around the city, and take cute pictures together. While they're at a store, a pendant suddenly catches BuIIies' attention, and Ji-hyun notices this. However, when she looks at the price tag, she quickly grabs him and takes him away. In the evening, BuIIies' mother catches her with Ji-hyun, and they all go to the restaurant. When she learns that Ji-hyun is very good at studies, she praises him. She then playfully tells her daughter not to let him slip away. Later that evening, Eunwoo arrives at a photo studio where BuIIies introduces the boys to one another. For some reason, Eunwoo gives Ji-hoon a rather tight handshake. In the next scene, everyone gathers for Eunwoo's photo shoot. Their main model doesn't show up, so one of the staff members notices Ji-hoon and asks if he could help them out by filling in for the model. He has promised a handsome payment, so Ji-hoon agrees. During the shoot, Yura, one of the seniors in school, is also present and takes interest in Ji-hoon. She tries to ask him out, but he shows no interest and politely declines, saying he has schoolwork to attend to. When Gui notices Yura trying to hit on Ji-hoon, she becomes a bit insecure. A few days later, Ji-hoon has gained a lot of popularity both at school and on the internet. When Yura continues to try to seduce him, he bluntly tells her he's not interested. As expected, this offends her, and she plans for revenge. That night, Gui sees absurd rumors about Ji-hoon spread across the internet. This makes her so angry that she, along with her friends, plan to gather evidence to invalidate the rumors. Later, they cleverly track the internet usage on their prime suspect, Non-Hui's computer, and learn that it is indeed her spreading the malicious content. The group confronts her about it, but Non-Hui refuses to acknowledge her participation. As a last resort, Gui adds her name to the revenge note. This causes Non-Hui's so-called natural makeup to be exposed as fake, making her a complete fraud. After their small victory, Ji-hoon and Gui meet up in a park that evening. It turns out that it's her birthday. Ji-hoon praises her for being the smart girl she is, and then gives her a gift. When Gui opens it, she finds the same pendant that she had been eyeing earlier. It's revealed that Ji-hoon was able to buy it with the money he earned from the modeling job. Overwhelmed with emotion and not knowing how to react, Gui asks him to help her put the pendant on. Just then, their romantic moment is interrupted by Gui's brother, who sends her a barrage of texts. Irritated by his shenanigans, Gui tries multiple times to enter her brother's name in the revenge note, but for some reason, it doesn't work. Meanwhile, Eunwoo, who happens to be passing by, spots the two lovebirds and becomes upset. A few hours later, Gui returns home where her family surprises her with a lovely cake. This excites our heroine, and she states that today was her best birthday ever. On the other hand, as Ji-hoon is on his way home, he is startled by a loud scream. When he turns around, he finds a couple fighting in public. Being the good guy that he is, he tries to intervene and protect the girl. However, the police arrive on the scene, and the couple accuse Ji-hoon of troubling them. As a result, he is taken into custody. In the next scene, Ji-hoon's parents rush to the police station. They are shocked when the police inform them that their son is accused of assault. He insists that he didn't touch anyone, let alone assault them. However, none of the officers believe him. At school, Yura spreads the news that the company that used Ji-hoon's photograph plans to withdraw his commercial due to the scandal. He will also have to compensate them for the losses. Hearing all the rumors, Deoki gets suspicious and believes that someone is deliberately trying to mess with Ji-hoon. Therefore, she seeks Kong Min's help, and with his exceptional computer skills, traces the social media account of the girl Ji-hoon tried to save. To their surprise, it turns out that she works for Yura's company. In the meantime, Yura meets with Gui and asks her to break up with Ji-hoon if she wants to fix things. But at the same time, our hero arrives and angrily warns Yura not to mess with his girlfriend. He takes Gui away, but she leaves her phone behind. Taking advantage of this, Yura throws the phone in a wash basin, damaging it. When Gui learns this, she gets worried that she won't be able to use the revenge note until her phone is fixed. At night, Yura's driver meets with Gui and hands over the car's camera footage to her. He reveals that both Yura and her mother have been mistreating him for years, but he always kept quiet as he needed the money. However, now, seeing an innocent person like Ji-hoon being framed for something he didn't do, the driver felt like he needed to step in. Gui is stunned by this sudden act of bravery, and she thanks him before parting ways. The following day, the footage of Yura's plot to defame Ji-hoon goes viral, resulting in the charges against him being dropped. Seeing that her plan has failed, Yura becomes even more hell-bent on revenge. She orders chicken from Gui's family restaurant, and when our heroine delivers it, Yura starts acting up. When she reaches her limit, Gui grabs her by the hair and beats her up. The next morning, Yura's mom comes to the school in a fury and demands Gui be expelled from the school. To resolve the matter, Gui's mother is called in as well. Just when it seems that our heroine is going to be punished, Non-Hui enters and reveals shocking new evidence. She shows footage from earlier that day where Yura mocks Gui for being a delivery girl and throws the chicken on the floor. Surprisingly, even after watching the video, Yura's mother says that she sees nothing wrong with the footage. In response, Gui's mother lashes out at her. Both mothers then escalate and start hitting one another. At last, realizing that she's lost, Yura's mother angrily leaves the meeting, saying she'll be back. However, right after she reaches her office, she is mobbed by reporters as news of her abusive behavior towards her driver is all over the news. The nasty woman finally gets her comeuppance. On the other hand, Gui's brother finally does something nice for her. He fixes her broken phone and presents it to her. Just then, BuIIies receives a prompt asking if she wants to delete the revenge note. After thinking for a while, she decides that it's for the best, so she permanently deletes it. In the final scene, BuIIies and Ji-hoon are sitting together in an empty classroom, working on their assignments. All of a sudden, she asks why he likes her. In response, Ji-hoon shows her a picture of his puppy and explains that she is as adorable as him. He also reveals that he kisses his puppy every day and sleeps with him too. Hearing all this, BuIIies blushes and says that he's a very lucky puppy.